What is going on, people? Welcome. A new game, a new playthrough. Beastmen go into space. Check the description if you want to see the mods I'm using for this one. I've mixed it up a little bit from the Dwarf game. We're going to try and keep this one tribal, but they're also going to space, so it's not going to seem super tribal, I guess. Whatever, they're tribal nature. So here's our get-go. We have Gagux, Blood Tongue, Lightning Feet, and Guluk. We're going to call Gagux here our leader. Blood Tongue is actually a wizard. Lightning Feet here, the two little schlubs, I don't know. They're our little ranged weapon dudes. It's fine. And Blood Tongue sadly doesn't have a weapon, but we'll have to make one for him. There's a ton of stuff. We have real ruins going, so we have all kinds of awesome stuff laying all around the map, including a structural beam from a ship. How convenient is that? It's not doing our value any favors, but there you go. That'll be a lot of fun. There's also a lot of beds laying around. We're going to reclaim all this crap. Beds are useful early on until we can establish some proper Beastman tents and some Beastman cots. There's a comms console. I'm a little worried about the amount of steel that doesn't exist here, but anyways, the first goal is simply to get some space to live. Lore of Life is Blood Tongue's lore, and it's pretty cool to see a Minotaur magic user. Like an Ogroid Thaumaturge from Age of Sigmar, perhaps. We're not going to talk too much Warhammer crap here, but I'm a nerd. Regardless, we bring in some beds. We'll have to get those cleaned up. We're also chopping a lot of wood just to clear some space. We are in a forest, as seems fitting for Beastmen. I didn't want to go in the old world forest because as much as I love those biomes, I have some mods in that were supposed to make this biome look really awesome in terms of changing the look of the trees, but something went wrong. I have a couple mods that alter map generation. In fact, this is the second map we came to. We do start building a structure, get some rice in the ground. Not that we won't be able to hunt, but I'd like to have some backup plans in case all the animals croak. But yeah, the first map, I have a map generation mod active that makes more realistic or geological formations, and it was supposed to be a hilly map. We're going to build a bonfire here, but the first map was not hilly. It looked like a mountain, and I was just playing a Dwarven mountain game, so I want some open space, as seems fitting for Beastmen in the woods. Regardless, we have lots of work ahead of us here in terms of just reclaiming everything here, getting some proper defenses in place. The magic will help a bit, and having two dudes wielding bows will help a bit. I'm not sure why they don't spawn with Ungor bows. I do have the Bones mod active too. I always like that one when I'm playing Beastmen, so we're going to bone up the floors, and I don't know if we'll get into bone walls. We'll definitely be doing some Beastman tents. Any Beastmen will live in tents. And, you know, if we end up with some Ogre allies or some Skaven, that's just fine as well. We can take them all to space with us. But anyway, the bonfire's done. And Blood Tongue, turns out, is our cook. So that's pretty interesting. Step one, get some roof over our head. Beastmen don't really care about a lot. You can see mod settings. I've turned off the things that make them really difficult to play. The need for violence, and they have some needs that make them more tribal and more bestial, but it's also very difficult to have a long game with them without just endless mental breaks. So regardless, our wealth is about 9,500 at the moment. That seems like it's probably okay. We do have 4 people, so that's a fair level of defense. I'm going to just jump in, because since we have so many people to fight with and we have the magic user, Blood Tongue likes to go for a walk. The bone floors are going in. I think we can defend ourselves relatively well. We're going to start reclaiming walls and doing what we can to build some outer defenses here. Seems like a good play. I love that bonfire. It took me forever to get that to look right, but it turned out really badass. And you can destroy anything in it just by setting a job to have it thrown in there. It's awesome, right? This is definitely an ancient danger on a bone wall. The predators around here should net us some decent food so we can abstain from a lot of the hunting stuff and just pick up their scraps for now. I did add the mod back in that lets them just jump on critters and ride around all the time. We do have some bad stuff happening in terms of a Mournfang trying to eat some of our people. So, but as you can see, RunAndGun is active. I debate on just running inside, but it's not moving too quick relative to the people that are mounted. So if it keeps chasing those people that are riding on the Warhounds, not going to be a problem, because it seems like Lightning Feet is pretty goddamn good with a bow. So there you go. Let's keep chasing it and shooting it, and maybe it'll attack that rabbit instead of us. I'm going to send the people on foot inside. These guys are, or this critter is definitely going to be faster than the people on foot until we shoot it in the leg a few more times. We got to watch our step here. Gagux takes a bad path and does get close to it, but fortunately it misses when it tries to bite his damn leg off. And we're spreading out. Gagux is the bait. Eventually, needless to say, we bring it down with just a short bow, which is fantastic. And that'll be some meat and some hide. We do make a proper wooden crude butcher block, which is a Beastman work table, rather than a butcher spot. At some point, again, we'll have all kinds of nice stuff going on here, but one thing at a time. I do need to get some research going. Beastmen don't even start with the ability... Four squirrels show up at that point. But anyways, they don't start with the ability of stone cutting, even being so tribal. So maybe it was just 2 squirrel. With the magic and the knife. I don't know how you use a knife on a squirrel from the back of a warhound, but that's fine, right? Did the job. Yeah, there were just 2. So we also need to get into electricity as well. So I start with electricity, but I am going to switch to stone cutting when I realize there's not enough walls on the map that I can reclaim to make a proper barrier wall around us. Just step 1, at least we can start setting up walls to funnel people into us so we can control the directions they're coming. We do have these swamps on either side of the base. I let the default annihilation for our faction and agony for our location stand. Seems interestingly Beastman. Some tribes people show up to attack us at that point, but it's literally one dude, and that's not terribly scary when you have 4 Beastmen. We do need to get some legitimate weapons, and I'm foreseeing at some point like bionics and power armor and fucking ARs and whatever. So Drain Life is a spell that does some direct damage and heals Blood Tongue. If he's not injured, it just does some direct damage to the foe. Sadly, it's got a slower cooldown time. So we're just going to stick with the run and gun. Gullux seems to have lost his bow somewhere, so I have to figure out what happened to that. I end up not being able to find it, so he just runs around with the other 2 bigger beastmen. We spooked the Warhound with our bow shooting next to it. Okapi here, he's got to come up with a better plan than this, because it's really not too wise. At the very least, charge in and start swinging. Maybe he'll injure somebody. What he's doing here is pretty dumb. He's going to end up, I think he goes after our Warhound. Whatever. Needless to say, run and gun is where it's at. It's less accuracy if you're running and gunning, and it's less accuracy if you're on the back of a beast mounted. So accuracy is seriously suffering. You can see it's quite the run around here, but eventually we bring the dude down. We do get a club for Blood Tongue, and we get some clothes. We're going to start butchering human likes. Beastmen are indeed cannibal as a race, as a faction, whatever you want to say. Now the downside is if you start bringing in other factions or other pawns that aren't, you're going to have some problems. They do have a bonfire party, which seems like a fun time. The only thing I see really missing is alcohol. But it's still too early for that. So our first human is butchered. Bringing walls over. We do get a good chunk of them done in the north. When you move walls, your outline is pretty bold. So, but right over this side is all done. We brought marble. We just bring in whatever we can find too. I'm not being picky. Wealth is now at 12,300 and some change, so that's increasing rapidly. And that's why our defenses are one of the main priorities we have. They're all just moving walls around. We need to get stone cutting on board, so I do switch gears from electricity. Seems like we should have the basics in place before we start heading down a path to windmills or whatever we end up going with. There's a mineable saltpeter meteorite that falls nearby. These guys don't have the capacity to make gunpowder, so it's not really going to be a thing. And it's not really used in the futuristic stuff anyway. That's more of a fantasy thing for the dwarfs. I do decide to check if this is an ancient danger, and it indeed is an ancient danger, as we suspected. We'll crack into that once we get either some really good magic or some better spells. There's our Warhound is having a battle with a lynx at that point, so we decide to come assist. Not really sure who's going to win, but the Warhound does end up taking it down, which leaves us some extra food. We don't even get our human likes over there to assist. I do love the bone floors, very fitting. I have to make a spot for those hounds to sleep when they're injured so we can get them tended. And we also need to start harvesting some medicine. It's one thing we don't have that I really should have been on top of sooner. Whatever. We don't really have a good doctor anyways. We do have someone with a passion for doctoring in the form of Gagux, who does have some sickness going. But Beastmen are pretty hardy, and he will pull through, especially with any form of tending. So I expand the rice grow zone. There's the bone floor again. Anyways, it starts raining, and these fires consume so much wood. I decide that we're definitely going to have to roof it over. It takes 50 wood to fuel them. They do burn for a while, but whatever. You're not supposed to be able to place that under a roof, but clearly you can put a roof over it after the fact. So whatever. It didn't give me an error. I'm going to do it. If you put that roof high enough, I guess it'll just cook. An ogre shows up at that point to bring the business to us. I'd consider capturing him, but he is a pyromaniac, and I don't take pyromaniacs. Even though in this setting they may be not inappropriate, we're just not going to do it. So we still don't quite have another magic point for Bloodtongue to get magic, so we're stuck with what we have. 30 damage is pretty legit, right in the sternum. And we start with the bows. He's going to start attacking our Warhound there. Hopefully our spell regenerates faster. We don't really want to get anybody any serious injuries now, so we're not being very Beastman-like by running away from all of our enemies. It's very timid, and they're like legit wild animals. They're very shy. So while the Warhound fights the ogre, Lightning Feet continually tries to shoot him in the back. On the plus side, we'll end up with a nice club here that Bloodtongue should be able to equip. The Minotaur, if they can't, then I just need to add a patch to the Ogre mod, because a lot of the Ogre and like Minotaur weapons are restricted to their race because they're big beefy weapons. I don't remember if I patched that or not, but anyway, you can see run and gun. Dudes come in with melee weapons. Just kind of breaks things. Whatever. I say that all the time, and I still do it, and I like it, and I don't really give a shit. We're going to butcher that big bastard, and we should get a fair amount of meat. We do have to rescue Nate, the Chaos Warhound. He's down and out. Dude having been clubbed up with an ogre. And we need steel as well, so we're mining some steel. Our ogre, or sorry, our Warhound does get tended up, and we get back to researching electricity. There's a crude stonecutter's table specific to the Beastmen, so we'll get one of those babies put in. We're going to need some roof over it. Which puts them in the dark, and I don't really like that so much, but whatever. At least they're not getting rained on. They might not even care if they're soaking wet. I should double check their needs. But we start with the tents finally. So some Beastman tents are going to be what we got. We do have a guy that wants to join. It's an Ungor, Kolgar, and all in all, he's sanguine. He's actually one of the best Ungor I've ever seen in my life. And wealth is at 16,700. There's predators that hang out by herds of prey around the map, so we're just nabbing those prey animals after they take them down for butchering, and that's getting us by. Some dwarfs show up at that point and decide they're going to bring down the Beastmen. I'm not sure why 2 dwarfs thought they could bring down 5 Beastmen, but there you have it. So should be able to deal with these guys, much like we've dealt with everything else. Because the dwarfs have melee weapons, and that's a good thing because we do have a magic point too, so we can get Winter Frost going. That's 2 direct damage spells, but there's our Winter Frost. It only did 8 damage, but it does cause frostbite for whatever that's worth. So now we've used both of our spells. And it's time to run away. We do have 2 Ungor with bows shooting now. We can make something happen a little quicker anyways in terms of taking these dudes down. Sadly, when the running gun's going, neither of them's terribly accurate, but yeah, this guy's already pretty beat up. Breaks my heart to take a dwarf down like this. There's no honor in it. Dwarves are my one true love. But this game is about beastmen, so there you go. So the axe is going to be useful. The other guy had a hammer. He's also taken the longest way around possible. So I do have to get over there and deal with that butthead. But by then our magic should be renewed. That's a plus. At one point I decided to go out the door, but in the end I decided not to. His kidney is destroyed by the frost spell. Interesting. It pierces the body and destroys that. But anyways, we're going to give this guy the business the old-fashioned way with the bows and the running, and not a lot of excitement, but there it is. Either way, we'll get some dwarf hide out of that. We can build some smaller tents for the Ungor. I have some caribou to butcher, and there is our Ship to the Stars quest. It is, I think it's probably pretty typical. They put it typically far away. It ends up being about 63 days on a walk. Find a 62.3. I find it hard to find our home base. I don't know that there's a good way to do that. And the icon is somewhat similar to the AI Beastmen faction base. So some Tuskors joined at that point. That's fun. I debate on getting all these guys trained up. They'll haul. They'll fight. They're not dumb animals, having been given the gift of chaos. Bloodtongue's working on making himself a massive cudgel, and we do research light and warmth so I can make some candles in the bedroom. It's just an easy way to keep them from getting a darkness penalty. So we don't have enough leather to make a 4th Beastman cot yet. I'm going to keep it themed to the Beastmen and not use vanilla beds if I can help it for Beastmen. So there you go. But there's our first tent. It's a big tent with dividing walls made out of various critters. And whatever, it does the job. They don't really care what their bedrooms look like anyway, so whatever, it's fine. There's a mad deer that comes in at that point. I'm going to try and hit it with the frost spell. Also, I should slow things down a little bit. The bows start going off. I still need to find another bow. It's so hard to get research on. Beastmen not being in a race based on intelligence and progress do have research penalties, so they research a bit slower than other races would. And it's at this point I decide why not get all these guys trained up. 2 more buttheads show up at that point to try and bring the place, the burgeoning Beastman, I don't know what you call it, settlement? It's definitely not a base. Anyways, try and bring it down. They do start attacking one of my Tuskors, but the Tuskor is not to be taken lightly. Drops one of the dudes, and Gadakar, we're going to try and strip him for his gear. And he did leave us a knife, whatever that's worth. At some point we can smelt those things too when we make a crude forge. Finish him off for his meat, bones, and fat. And we're out of here. Let lightning feet undraft. The other guy made it off. He was mounted, so he couldn't really catch him. I just let him go. I would have liked his weapon a lot, but it just wasn't in the cards. Low psychic drone starts at that point, which is not very good, but there's not a lot you can do about that. The research proceeds. I'm going to start mining some space. It's at that point that a Cygor joins and is also a faith magic user, which is interesting. Shalya being one of the Empire gods. He doesn't really do anything, but we can put him to work hauling, cleaning. Look how huge he looks in the bed. I don't know how he's fitting in there. Maybe there's a hole in the ground under that bed, but either way, kind of same thing for the Minotaur. I've had an issue with that, finding the space to make beds larger. I did solve it. Uh-oh, another bloody raid. So there you go. Anyways, I had that issue with the ogres, and I came up with a pretty cool solution, man. Beastmen shouldn't really be needing beds anyway, so I just kind of let it fly with the Cygor. Now, one thing about it, so I misused his spell here. This will cure light wounds on all the people it affects. She does have another one that gives a nice bonus to mood and abilities that lasts a few days, but that is not the one she had, so You can see the Cygor stone. It's pretty worthless. We do end up taking a Cure Blight spell. It just throws it and it hits our own damn wall, which we've been repairing for days and days. I noticed Bloodtongue didn't equip the Ogre Club, and I have to figure out why that is as well. He might not be able to. He clearly just picked it up and it's sitting in inventory. There's a lot of bow shots coming in. I decided to take cover here. But at least, hopefully, we'll end up with some bows as fallout from this battle. And we do decide to spread out, too. At some point, we're just going to have to start meleeing the dudes. We have Gagux with a Dwarven axe. These names. Gulluk has nothing. Bloodtongue has a battle with a spear wielder. Dirtle decides he's just going to go over there and punch. He's a very strong pawn and can really do some damage in melee. The same's true for the Minotaur, but it looks like the Minotaur is getting his ass kicked. So, anyway, Dirtle can certainly settle some stuff. He can't really equip any melee weapons due to his size and just the nature of what he is. Actually, he might be able to with the Anyone Can Beastman mod going, so I'll have to double check on that too. So if I could get him some awesome weaponry. But Bloodtongue is in bad shape. He's our only magic user. We got to get that dude sorted out. So Gagux, being our only doctor, is going to go deal with him. And we do have some bows laying about. Even if they're not the best, it's better than nothing. We do manage to keep Bloodtongue alive. We do need a lot of people tended. And that's going to be it for today, though. We've made some fantastic progress. We've grown massively. When we build the Herdstone, we'll grow again pretty quick. So, and it also get tougher with all the extra raids coming in, so we need some legit security. Still working on researching electricity. Leave me a like, comment. I love you guys. I want to know what you think about this one, and I will see you next time.